Welcome students, myself Aishwarya, Computer Faculty at Shakthi Residential PU College. Today I am going to summarize your 6th chapter, that is Object-Oriented Programming. In Object-Oriented Programming, the first question arises why you need a programming language, or what is the use of a programming language. Actually, we require the programming language in order to communicate with the computer. See, if I use common languages like English or Kannada, the computer will not understand what I want to convey to it. So I won't get the desired output. So in order to communicate with the computer, we need something called as programming language. Let's see what are the type of programming languages. You have 3 types of programming: procedural programming, structured programming, and object-oriented programming. Let's see what does each of the programming technique means. First one, procedural programming. In procedural programming, your main program data are divided into procedures. That is, the entire program will be divided into procedure 1, procedure 2, procedure n. So, it is similar to an algorithm. What do you mean by an algorithm? It is a step-by-step procedure to solve a given problem. Similarly, procedural programming works similar to algorithm. That is, it will follow step-by-step instructions. Example for procedural programming is C. C programming language is an example. So now let's see what is structured programming. Branching statements like if else, and iteration statements like while, do-while loops make structured programming. So structured programming mainly concentrates on these statements. So what are these statements? You will see on the next chapter. Just now keep in mind that this structured programming is based on branching statement, and branching statement consists of decision making statement like if else, and iteration statement like while and do while. Now, as we had structured programming, it had some drawback. That is the main reason why we chose object oriented programming. So what are the disadvantages of structured programming? The first and foremost thing is it does not work on real world objects. Suppose if you want to apply the programming concept on something real world object, it was not possible on structured programming. That is the reason why we shift or why we move to object oriented programming. In object oriented programming, you have 2 concepts. The first and foremost one is an object. The second one is class. Let us see what is a class. Class is a blueprint. So you know what is a blueprint, right? It does not exist actually, but it's a blueprint, like a template. What does a class will do? It will hold the object, or it will act as a template for the object. Then what is an object? Object is nothing but something that exists in a real world. We can call them as identifiable entity. So these objects will definitely have some characteristics. We'll call them properties or behaviors. So when the object of similar characteristics are found, we'll make them group, and that objects are held by class. So you will have a class and the class will have an object. Now let's see an example for class and object. Now let me take a class called as cat. So here my class name is cat and name of my cat is Frisky. So my object is Frisky. Obviously, the name of the cat is Frisky. So, the Frisky has one of the character, that is name. And let it be of 1 year. So, what is the age of Frisky? It is 1 year. I call these both things as its characteristics. Now, see the first line. Functions that operate on data into a single unit is called as object. So you have something here called as data and functions. So what is a data? Here in the example, name and age is data, and what will be the functions? What the Frisky can do, we call them as functions. For example, cat Frisky, it can do meow. I'll put 2 parentheses here because it is a function. It can eat. It can walk. All these are functions. So what does an object consist of? Data and functions, and objects of similar properties are held in something called as template. The template is a class. So here you have class cat. Object of this class is Frisky. The Frisky has two characteristics, name and age. Let it be the data. And what it can do, that is its functions. Meow, eat and walk are its functions. This is what an object and class is all about. Now coming to the characteristics of OOPS. Very important question. Expected for 5 marks as well as 3 marks. Now let us see what are the characteristics of OOPS. First one, modularity. Modularity is a technique adopted to devise a complex problem into number of self-contained independent programming fragments or modules. So modularity is a technique in which entire program will be divided into smaller units, and these smaller units are called as modules, and these modules are capable of running independently and executing itself. That is what modularity means. Now coming to the second one, abstraction. The process of representing essential features without including the background details or explanation. It is called as abstraction. It means users are given only abstract view of data. That is what is necessary to the user, only that is shown to them. Rest of the features are hidden. For example, when we go to purchase a mobile phone, first thing we will see it is the camera, then storage. Then we may go for the company name, all those things. But whether we are looking how the features will work, we don't know. We look the features, what are they? And we don't know how the features will be working. That is what an abstraction means in the real world. Now coming to the next feature, data encapsulation. Wrapping of data and function into a single unit is called as data encapsulation. It means you are binding both data and function into one unit. That is called as encapsulation. It will provide good security for your data. That is, as previous example I have told you, the data of that cat Frisky. You had some characteristics, right? Plus that the functions it can do. It is binded together or wrapped together. It is called as data encapsulation. Now coming to the next feature, inheritance. What is inheritance? Process of deriving a new class from existing class. It is called as inheritance. For example, parent, son. We see some of the features we are inherited from our parents, right? Same thing works in inheritance also. Some of the features from parent, we can take it to the child class, which is a newly derived class. That's what it means. Now coming to the next characteristics, polymorphism. It is an ability for a message to be processed in more than one form. And you have two types, operator overloading and function overloading. Let me give you a real world example. See, as a person, I'm standing in front of you. Now you consider me as a teacher. So when I'm approaching you, I'm a teacher to you. When I approach my mom, I'm a daughter to her. And when I approach my husband, I'm a wife to him. So here the person is same but implemented in different form. Same thing happens in polymorphism. The concepts are same but it will be implemented in different form according to the approaches. That is what polymorphism means. Meaning of polymorphism, it is, poly means many and morphism means forms. Polymorphism, many forms. Now coming to the next feature, dynamic binding. Dynamic binding means binding the procedural call during the runtime. What is procedural call? It's the function call. So you are binding them, like you are stopping them when the program is running. That is called as dynamic binding. Next it is message passing. See, in OOPS you are able to pass the message. How? By invoking object. When you invoke the object, you have a function or you have a feature that you are able to pass it the message through the objects. That is called as message passing. So these are the features of OOPS. Very important question, expected for 3 marks as well as 5 marks. Now coming to the application. Application means where you are using OOPS. First thing, it is used in database. You know what is a database? It is used to store the data. So you have object-oriented database. Then you have hypermedia, expert text and hypertext. Text that contain audio files, video files, all those features. We call them as hypermedia files. Artificial intelligence, expert system. See, expert systems, they are used for one specific purpose. Such system we call them as expert system. Then you have decision support system, office automation system, parallel programming, and neural networks. Neural networks are the networks that have a typical structure of neurons in our body. That is why it is called as neural network. Then CAD, CAM, CIM system, computer aided design system, computer aided manufacturing system, computer integrated manufacturing system. You just know their name and their full forms. Next you have simulation and modeling. Simulation and modeling, it comes under computer graphics. This is what object-oriented chapter deals with, and this is the end of the summary of object-oriented chapter. Hope you have understood the concepts. Thank you.